Mike, welcome. Nice to have you with us here in your Baltimore team. Not showing any hiccups here. Played very consistently all year long. Give me a little thumbnail. Go ahead.
I think that's a good word, Chris. They really have been consistent. I got to hand it to this group of players and coaches. Very businesslike, a lot of energy every night. We've been in tight games, both our wins and losses. It seems like almost every game. So it's just kind of the brand of baseball that we're playing. It's very entertaining. These guys are really athletic. They play really hard. They really like each other. So it's been a fun calendar year or so here where you look back and we have quite a good record over the last 12 months.
You sure do. And, everybody talks about the starting pitching, but the starting pitching's been pretty good. We all know how good the bullpen is, the back end of it. But that rotation, a lot of no-names there, and you had to send your big pitcher down. But that rotation's a little better than people think. Now, I don't know how it would hold up there in a big series in October in a playoff round, but you like what they've done here through the 162. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
The rotation's been great. They've just been keeping us in games, and a real competitive group of guys. Kyle Gibson is kind of the vet and the heart and soul of the rotation. He's having a really good year for us as a free agent sign. And then we've got some young righties kind of blossoming here. Tyler Wells, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kramer doing a nice job. And then the fifth spot has been a combination so far of Cole Irvin and Grayson Rodriguez. And we like those guys, and I think we'll get Grayson back at some point. He's down in AAA playing his trade. So I like where the rotation's at, but, we're barely through the first half, and these seasons get pretty long, and we're mindful of that because these guys have been pitching a lot and working hard.
And I've done a nice job. And, of course, you played well against – now, I haven't won every series but against the good teams, but even the series in Tampa – you split the 2 games there. You beat them 2 out of 3 at home. You beat the Blue Jays up there in Toronto. You beat them at home. I mean, the Yankees, you've been competitive. You've been pretty darn good against a real good team, Mike, and that's how you got to try to sometimes evaluate it. You have to be happy with that. Let's talk there. Go ahead.
Yeah, we haven't faced everyone, but we've faced most of the good teams in baseball so far. And, I mean, we lost a series in Atlanta earlier in the season, but it was like a playoff atmosphere, and it was playoff caliber baseball, and we hung right with them. It was like extra inning losses and very close ones. So that was eye-opening. I do believe that this team can hang with everyone. We've just got such a competitive landscape right now in the league, in our own division, which is crazy. Every team over 500, and the Rays off to a historic start. I think we're 4 games back as I speak of them. So our division in and of itself is challenging enough, but it seems like when we've gone out and run into the leaders from other divisions, we've beat them or hung with them. So that's a good indicator.
And, of course, you're right about that Braves series. That was a heck of a series. Do you have the wherewithal? I mean, just from a psychological standpoint, it would mean something to this group. Do you have the wherewithal to add payroll and make a big move if you had to at the deadline? How about that?
We're certainly preparing for it. I think that the thing that's going to be interesting is I'm having a hard time getting a grasp on what this market's going to look like. We've got some really unique dynamics this year from the more balanced schedule where the central divisions are all knotted up, and a lot of the teams that are off to disappointing starts are teams that were not expecting this and are not used to being sellers. So it's tough to see right now how many sellers are going to be and what that market's going to look like, but we are absolutely preparing to be buyers. And, nobody likes trading prospects, but we're sitting on the consensus #1 farm system in the game. So I think we're going to have what it takes to be competitive in whatever this trade market looks like. And, certainly we're going to see where we're at over the next month, where reinforcements might be helpful, and we're going to do our jobs.
And last year you got pounded, and you were 100% right because you made that trade with Minnesota, and as it turned out, you made a great trade getting that Cano kid. You got him back, so kudos for you there. All right, how about, the Mets used to have to deal with this with Piazza. Sometimes when your catcher is one of your most important offensive cogs of your team, it can be a little troubling in September because they wear out a little bit. and you need his offense, but he's caught 120 games, and he's tired, and that hurts you some. I know you have the DH. The Mets didn't have that with Piazza, but that is something I've been thinking about with the Orioles team. How about that? What can you tell me there?
Yeah, it's a good point. I do think the DH will be helpful for us. We have been using it, at least probably one of our most frequent DHs. And we were mindful of this and went out and got James McCann and built a lot of good catching depth in the organization that we're using right now with Anthony Benboom's been up. So we have other guys that we're very comfortable with handling our pitching staff. They've been great defensively. And so I think Brandon's done a good job of managing Adley's rest thus far, and hopefully we can just keep it up and keep him in a right spot physically for what we hope is October baseball.
And I brought it up a lot, so let me bring it up to you. We saw Franco with the Tampa. We saw Rodriguez with Seattle. We saw Tatis with San Diego. You've done a great job. This team's going to be really good. Great ballpark. It's a great baseball area. I understand the agent. Don't get me wrong. But the bottom line is you'd like to make him the signature here for the next 10 years. Has there been any discussion internally about throwing a big contract at him and see if he bites and get him to play with the Orioles for his career? How about that? What can you tell me there?
Well, we certainly love having him. And we have a lot of players on this team that I think it's obvious, but we'd rather have them longer than they're currently contracted for here. And we're a front office. We do our job all the time. We're always looking at things. I say it all the time publicly. I don't want to be the one who's out talking about what we're trying and what we're doing and what we're not doing, because I don't think that's helpful for conducting business with agents and the people that I deal with. But we love a lot of these players, and we've got a lot of people up here working around the clock on ways of keeping this organization healthy now that we're good again. And certainly a big part of that is looking at our own players and keeping them longer.
I mean, you might have a problem that every GM in the world would love to have. Too many young players. You can't sign them all for $300 million. And you might have too many of them. So you're almost going to have to pick and choose who you want to be, the dominant feature of your team and for the franchise in the next 10 years. But that is a nice problem to have, is it not, Michael?
Well, we'll see. I don't know if there's anything such thing as having too many good players. I think we'd all take that. And we know that there's injuries and guys take their lumps, so we like having the depth. But I think we've got a great young core. There is more coming. A lot of these players were drafted or signed by us in the last few years, but also the prior administration did a wonderful job drafting some of these kids. So I think it's really good for Baltimore in particular to have a homegrown pipeline of players. That's been the plan. And I think we're proud of the fact that we seem to be executing it, because I think that's the way that this franchise is going to need to build its teams from now and this point forward. And I think it also has created a really good culture in this team that all these guys came up together.
One last thing before you go, and that's a classy move with Duquette, because he did a lot of that signing too. Good job bringing him up. I give you credit for that. Now, as far as this is a fun team. You had 20 games over 500. The manager's been there a while. Let's give him some credit too. You brought him in. He seems like, a lot of times a guy brings a young manager in, to sort of handle the rough roads. Then when you're starting to win, like the Cubs did with Rennery and Madden, they go in a different direction. You did not do that. The Pirates have not done that. You have seen plenty with Hyde to think that Brendan's going to be a big manager for you for a long time to come, and he's your choice. Let's discuss that for a second. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. I'm very proud of the fact, that was our goal. I don't think it's necessary that you're switching managers just because you're rebuilding. And I think when you have the right person and everyone's working well together in the organization, and everyone understands what we're doing and we're all pulling on the same rope, what can happen is the group stays and shares success together. And I think that's what we're seeing here, and hoping as we take the next step forward for us, which is to make a playoff spot, which we haven't done that yet. We haven't won anything yet, but We hired Brandon because we felt like he had the right perspective from his experiences, being a farm director and a bench coach and basically everything you can do in player development. And he had been through a rebuild as I had as well. And, so far so good. So we are very proud of the fact that that's been the case here, that we've had that stability.
Yeah, you've done an excellent job. This is a fun team, great ballpark, great city. Good luck. Well done, Mike. Thanks for a few minutes. Appreciate a couple of tough questions you answered there. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Chris.